Good morning, viewers. My name is Kaka, a member of the JPRC, Karibangi South, and I wish to take you through on a topic that I think will be important to all of us, and that is what you need to know about minor traffic offenses in Kenya. We all know that driving has quickly become indispensable in our situation. Almost everybody now drives. Anybody can become a driver as long as you are an adult. And because of this, and because now driving has become more of a necessity, it is important that we address ourselves onto the issues of what are the minor traffic offenses. Let me begin by first of all saying that the Traffic Act does not define what is a minor traffic offense. But in the year 2016, the Traffic Minor Offenses Rules 2016 were passed by the CS, that is CS, it should be missed, CS Minor. Let me just confirm the name, please. Wherein, that is James Macharia, Cabinet Secretary for Transport. He passed these traffic rules so that now they are able to regulate on the traffic offenses that happen. You will notice that what the Traffic Minor Offenses Rules of 2016 did was to create a situation whereby we now have a maximum fines that are applicable or can be awarded to anybody. Unfortunately, most people don't know what to do when they are faced with this kind of a situation. And mostly people end up, because of our situation, bribing policemen and getting away with it. Yet perhaps it is also important that they should know what it entails and what is exactly a traffic offense. That is when we're dealing with the minor traffic offense. That Section 117 of the Traffic Act is the one that now brings about what are minor traffic offenses, and pursuant to that, the rules were put in by the CS, Ministry of Transport, Infrastructure, Housing and Development, and Urban Development. So the situation that we need to do is that, what do you do when you find yourself being stopped by a policeman? The thing is that the policeman, even when they stop you, if there is any infraction or, if you may, offense that you've committed, what we then should have is a situation whereby the policeman explains to you that you are in violation of this, and because of this, I am going to book you. Unfortunately, most people don't know what that entails, and because, again, of our nature, our policemen, some of them, not all, are only interested in a small bribe, which is actually not right. And as Christian, I think we should be on the forefront in trying to make sure that if for any chance there is a traffic offense, you actually admit liability and you go forth and do what is the right thing to do. The first thing that happens is the moment you are cited or summoned for a traffic offense, ordinarily you're supposed to go to the police, to the traffic court the following day. And what most people don't know is that your personal attendance is not mandatory. What that means is that you can actually get an advocate or your agent to go to court and plead, and then you are fined. And this is where it becomes important for you to know that if I'm going to plead to this offense, then what does it entail? How much money am I supposed to pay? So what I have done is that I have come with me the Traffic Act, minor regulations that were promulgated by the CS, and I would just take you through to some of the offenses that are listed there in their list of minor offenses. And the first thing that you find is driving without identification plates affixed or plates not fixed in the prescribed manner. If you drive your motor vehicle on our roads and the number plates are not there, you have actually committed an offense, and the fine is 10,000. 10,000 is the fine that you will find. So that anytime you see a car, because once in a while you see cars, you just know that that is an offense that can attract 10,000. That is what the law says. Then the other one that you'll find is driving a vehicle without a valid inspection certificate inspected. That is usually another offense, particularly in the PSVs, if the motor vehicle has not been inspected. And again, the fine is 10,000. Then this is now where it is very, very interesting. Driving without a valid driving license endorsement in respect of the class of vehicle. Basically, generally driving without a driving license. And this is one area where people have found themselves in situation, because what happens if you have forgotten your driving license? So the truth is, you have a driving license, but you have forgotten. What happens? In the past, there's a time the Inspector General had issued a command that you do not have to have it physically with you. And that all you need to do in the e-citizen, if you are able to show to the policeman that, hey, look here, or even if you log in at NTSA, we are able to actually tell whether you have a driving license or not. So ideally, that is the situation that, as it ought to be. Unfortunately, most people don't know this. Our policemen also are not very, very eager in assisting us on this. And the next thing that you find is the policeman will not want to listen to you. And the next thing they'll be doing is want to book you and summon you to court. You should know that the fine is 3,000. It's important to know. The fine is only 3,000 for that offense. Then there is this other thing that we all forget, because once you have renewed your driving license, you will find that after 3 years, that's the next time you're going to renew. And in most cases, people forget. And you only remember when you stop by the policeman. Then when they open, the first thing the policeman will tell you, kosa ya pili, hii driving license yako expire. So what do you do? Again, the policeman, ideally, he can listen to you. It is not a must that you must be booked. If you find a reasonable policeman, he will tell you, do this, nikikupata tena nitakushika, make sure you do the right thing. And you do the right thing. If you find one that is unreasonable, always remember that a fine is 1,000. It's not nothing much. A fine is 1,000. The other thing, and this is in relation to steal the driving license, is failing to carry or produce a driving license on demand. Now, this is, as I explained to you, there is a gray area here, because the law envisages a situation whereby you can also have what they call or any other evidence. Now, the any other evidence is what we are now calling now, like going to the NTSA, going to the e-citizen and proving that. Of course, our policemen are not very, very eager on that. But if you have a driving license and you find an adamant policeman, then you realize that the fine is only 1,000. That is the amount of fine that you're supposed to pay. The other thing that is also important is what to do if you are on the issue of speed limits. You will find that within the urban areas, the speed limit is something like 50 kilometers per hour. So ideally, if you go beyond 50 kilometers, then of course you've committed an offense. But you should always know that if you go over, like let's say 50, you're doing between 51 to 55, you are supposed to be given a warning. Actually, that is not an offense. If you go between now 56 to 60, the fine now becomes 500. It's important to know this. If you go now between now 61 to 65, now again the fine is 3,000. If you now exceed now between 60 and 20 and above, the fine is 10,000. So these are some of the things that people need to understand, so that when you are in such a place, know you have a limit you could exceed by around just 5 kilometers, because sometimes you might need to accelerate to overtake a motor vehicle. So you'll find that you just accelerated and you had to go beyond that. The other thing that you'll find, the other minor offense that I wanted us to just go through, is things that people don't know and they take for granted. Driving on or through a pavement or a pedestrian walkway. Like when we see the matatus driving on that in itself is an offense. It attracts 5,000 fine. These are the maximum. All these fines I'm talking about, they are maximums. Then another thing where police take advantage is failure of a driver to obey any direction given, whether verbally or signal. If a police stops you because it's controlling traffic, don't think that you have the right of way because perhaps you're at a roundabout and think that you can bypass that. You will be committing an offense because the policeman is supposed to control traffic. So that in itself will attract 3,000 fine. It's important people need to know that. Failure of a driver to stop when required to do so by a policeman in uniform. It's very important. The policeman has to be in uniform. So if you fail to stop and a policeman, for whatever reason, ask later the reason. Do not, first of all, go then think that you'll be asking the reason. Why did you stop? There's nothing like that. Stop. If you do not do that, the fine is 5,000 if you are taken to court. Then the issue thing people don't understand, causing obstruction. When you park your car in a position and you're obstructing, that in itself attracts 10,000 as a fine. Then if for some reason your motor vehicle has broken down and mumesimama kwa barabara, in our olden days, most of our people, our fathers, grandfathers, they would put what we call mashangi. Wanaweka those leaves, wanakata miti, wanaweka. There is no such provision. If you do that, you've committed an offense and you'll be fined 3,000. You are supposed to display the reflective triangles. Do not put in leaves cut so that you warn people. We are past that. We should be doing better than that. Then, of course, kuna ile kitu a good number of people wanabeba na motorcycles, motorbikes, and all those things. It's important for people to know what are the minor offenses that are therein. If you find a motorcycle carrying more than one person, like we see every day in our streets, in our town here, the fine is 1,000. You will be fined, but do they do this? If you drive, I'll come back to the motorcycles. If you drive a vehicle on a footpath, that is also another 5,000. If you are a pedestrian, this is important, not just now to motor vehicles. If you are a pedestrian and you are obstructing the free passage of vehicles, unasimama tu barabara, you've seen even makangas when they want to cut the line, wanasimama hapa mbele so that the other matatu ingie hapo. That is an offense, but then the fine is 500. It's important people need to know this. Another very important, and most people don't even know this, and this I have to emphasize. It is called failure to refund fare paid for incomplete portion of a journey for which full fare has been paid. Most people don't know this. If you paid full fare ya kutoka hapa mpaka Buruburu phase 5, ifike hapa phase 1, ione watu wameisha iseme sasa, hapa ndio mwisho. If the tout does not refund you whatever would have been there for the remainder of the journey, that is an offense and he will be charged 3,000. Most people don't know this, but it is the law. The law is actually there. Then I want to come back to the issue of motorcycles. If the rider does not wear protective gear, again, there's a fine for 1,000. But who does this? We have a motorcycle passenger now. We are now left now the rider. Now we are the passenger. If you do not wear protective gear like most of us do, you actually are still liable to a fine of 1,000. Then at any given time, and I'm sure here most people don't do that, if you do not wear a safety belt at all times, that is actually will attract, but it is 500 bob. But it is important people know about these things so that when you are got in that kind of a situation, you know how to respond. Then there is also the issue of driving while using a mobile when you are on your phone. That attracts a fine of 2,000. Now, the question is, when you have a Bluetooth and you put it, will that amount to? It actually does, because the law does not distinguish or give you no, but it is okay if you are on hands-free or Bluetooth. It does not say anything like that. Then, if you've been told that you are supposed to attend court, what happens if you fail to attend court? Now, this is very important what happens. Because people sometimes, if you're someone and you fail to go to court, it's interesting because, of course, warrants of arrest will be issued. And if a warrant of arrest has been issued, you'll be taken to court. always remember that you'll be fined a fine not exceeding 200 shillings. One of the fairest things that I've seen in this act. That is the fine, or that is in the first instance, or 1 month imprisonment. Unfortunately, if you don't raise that to 200, you can go in for that time. So it is important people get to know that when they are caught up with these offenses, they are offenses like any other, but different from the other penal cases. The ones like when people have stolen, when people have assaulted one another. These are different. Ideally, you are not even supposed to be put in a cell. You go to court. We have a traffic court. And actually, as they talk, in fact, if, let's say, for example, you are fined 10,000, an offense of 10,000, if you have given a police the cash bill of 10,000, you will find that is what actually you are normally told, hiyo ndio pesa utaachia nini kotini. So that is what happens in this kind of situations, and it is important that people know, because once in a while, and we have cases, when you go to court, people have actually been charged on the wrong offense, and people just go and say, nakubali, fine 10,000, 3,000, and they pay. Unfortunately for you, there are some times when even the charge sheet does not disclose the offense. And it is important to understand what it entails. And I'm now just about to wind up. If you've been caught by the police, the notification form is divided as follows. This is important. There is a section A of that notification that contains particulars, that is your name, the motor vehicle, and the charge. Always remember the charge has to be very, very specific. It has to be specific. That is the first part. So your name is filled on that section A. Then we have section B. It's called denial of charge. So that if you're denying the charge, you will take there. Then we have part C. Important also, we call admission to charge. Then part D, payment details. So that if you are agreeing I have committed this offense, and now if you know that the maximum is 3,000, you can say that I will pay by way of M-Pesa. And then in the same notice we're talking about, that notification form, it must have the details of the police officer arresting you. And then finally, there is an F where if it goes to court, what we call the sentencing. So that if you're just going to accept, you only now sign part C, admit to the charge, and you pay the amount. If for some reason it's about overspeeding, and this is also important, and sometimes you know yourself you're not overspeeding, do not just go and plead guilty. Because you know your car, you could be driving, then they come and tell you overcharging. The first thing that happens is insist on seeing the speed gun. The speed gun takes the picture of your plate number and the speed you're doing. Now, there's a problem here, because what happens if that speed gun is faulty? We wouldn't know. So if you are going to actually say not guilty, ideally, the policemen are supposed to give you the statements and the picture of the speed gun, and every year that speed gun has to go for, it's called, I think, calibration or something like that. So that if it has not gone for that 1 year and must have a certificate that it is perfectly working, that becomes a ground for you if, let's say, you want to challenge that offense. And I know of situations whereby people have challenged that thing of overspeeding, and on the basis of fact that there was no certificate on issue of calibration, the case is actually won because there is no proper evidence. So it is important that people just do not take these things blindly. When you are stopped by a policeman, it is a minor traffic offense. Always have that in mind and be ready at all times when they tell you that you've committed to ask to be told exactly the offense you've committed. And then if you are satisfied and everything, you'll just admit, you just sign and you pay. And for some reason, where the maximum is 10,000, if you have good reasons, we call now mitigating circumstances, you can explain. In fact, that sermon or charge sheet has that place for mitigation. So that if you're mitigating and you're saying that I did this because of A, B, C, D, in an ideal situation, it rarely happens. The court can even now fine you 3,000 and refund you 7,000. So the maximum is what is a maximum. It is not that it's definite. So maximum, where it maximum is 10,000, they can actually fine you even 5,000. Where it is 10,000, so that they can never fine you more than the amount that is stated there. So having said that, I think that is all I wish to talk about on minor offenses. It's been my pleasure to talk about this, and thank you everybody, and good morning.